Good morning, or good afternoon, or whatever time it is. We are going live with my husband, Nate, from Oregon. He's in Oregon right now, and we decided to do a live together. And we're going to be chatting about taking your microgreens with you camping. So this is to celebrate the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle that's going on right now. And we contributed our brand new Tales from the Tailgate ebook, which is all about traveling, camping, hiking, backpacking, and all of that as raw vegans. So that's available in the bundle, and you can get the bundle in my bio. Link is in my bio, or you can go to Nate's page as well and get the bundle from him too. So yeah, we're just gonna wait for Nate, but we also contributed the Make It Raw Volume 3 ebook that I wrote with Chef AJ. And that one has 47 brand new recipes in it. That includes like the gnocchi, the Swedish style meatballs. There's the pierogi in there as well. So there's 47 recipes in that ebook, and we are really excited because those are some of our absolute favorite new recipes. Especially for me, I really like the tomato and onion chana masala. It is so good. It's definitely one of my absolute favorite new recipes that I've created, and I hope you get to enjoy it as well. But it's not just about our content that's in this bundle. You're getting 33 brand new pieces of content, and I've had so many people ask, is this the same as the bundle that was in March? Is this the same as past bundles? Yeah, it's all been, brand new. So it's not the same as past bundles. It is totally, completely different. Everything is absolutely brand new. So Chris Kendall, who contributed his banana book. We've got Daniel McKinnon, who contributed his brand new ebook called Edible Art. There's some really cool recipes in there too. You definitely don't want to miss it. Go to the link in my bio to go grab it. And then there's a Raffle ebook from Lena. She made an ebook, it's called Raffles, and it's raw waffles. It's like super cool. So there's that. Raw Chef Yin contributed her Korean barbecue course, and I made all the recipes except for the kimchi because I already had some in my fridge. But I made all of the recipes from her Korean barbecue course, and it was a delicious feast. I am so happy with the outcome of that course. It's so good, so super delicious. So I highly recommend grabbing the bundle to get access to all of our brand new content, because after the bundle is over, the bundle ends on May 12th at 11:59 p.m. PST. Once the bundle is over, you'll still be able to buy everybody's stuff, but you'll be buying it from everybody separately, which will cost you over $840. So there's so much new content in this bundle, and it's all available for you for $50. And that's it. You just pay $50 and you get to download 33 brand new ebooks that were made special just for this bundle. So please go grab it if you haven't yet. We're still waiting on Nate. Hopefully he joins in soon. But if you have any questions about camping or traveling or doing raw on the road, please post in the chat and we can chat about how we do it. Because in our Tales from the Tailgate ebook, we go through great detail about how we do it, right? How we plan, how we pack, how we prepare, the tools that we use. We have a huge chapter talking all about what goes in our little camper bin. So we have this bin, this rubber bin that we keep in the truck, and it's there all the time. We don't take it out. We try not to take anything out of it because it usually doesn't really go back. We forget to put it back in the bin. So everything stays in the bin. There's like bowls and knives and cutting boards and spices and all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff in this bin that we take with us all the time. So when we do end up like somewhere where we need to make food, we can easily make food. So we can stop at a grocery store, or we take our food in our cooler or what have you. So yeah, it's definitely really awesome to have that bin, and we go over everything that we have in that bin. We also go over how we plan. So in that ebook, we have like a kind of an example of doing like a weekend camping trip. We start, say we're gonna leave the house on Friday and we're gonna stay the weekend and we're gonna leave on Sunday night or whatever. So we plan how we do breakfast, lunch, and dinner for each day, what we're gonna need like on the drive, just to give you examples of what you might want to take yourself and how we kind of plan everything out. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, we're just waiting for Nate. Hopefully he joins soon. But yeah, we want to talk about growing microgreens, because microgreens is something that we have taken on our camping trips before, and I want to have him share a little bit about how that happened, how that started out, because it wasn't really something that we typically take with us camping, but we'll wait for him to share that story. And yeah, it's definitely challenging to travel as a raw vegan because the world just isn't set up for us, right? It's just not set up for us to travel easily as raw vegans. We have to plan and prepare and make sure that we have everything in advance. So here we go. I miss my husband. He's in Oregon, and so these lives are really nice because we get to chat a little bit extra bonus. Hey,
Hey,
babe! Oh,
hey, baby!
looking good.
How are you?
I'm good.
You're
Oh,
looking good too. I miss you.
I miss
I like
you
I like
so
your
much.
colors.
Oh, thank you. Got my little butterfly earrings on and everything.
Have you been on long?
Um, about 8 minutes. Yeah, we just been
Oh
chatting
man,
about.
I'm like texting you like I'm ready, and
I know
I'm
I
coming
saw
to
that, but I
Instagram.
was like, I'm already
Shoot,
live.
I guess I just didn't scroll over far enough through the lives because there's so many people live right now. I'm like, I guess she's not on just yet. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, maybe I'll go get some grapes. And then
You're
like I'm like, maybe scroll again. I'm like, oh shoot, she's on here live.
on.
Hey everybody, glad you could join in.
Welcome. Yes. So I love you. I miss you.
Mm, I miss you
But I
too.
wanted to chat today about, I was telling them about that you have a story kind of like how we started taking microgreens with us camping. Um,
Mm,
so yeah, we might as well just get right into it.
sounds good.
How did we start taking microgreens camping?
Yeah, I think the very first time that we did, um, we were going to Sedona for my birthday, 2022, and we had so many that were like, they weren't ready to harvest quite yet. There were some that were ready to harvest, and we just thought like, hey, let's just bring this with us. This will be so cool. We could just like cut fresh microgreens at camp and put it on our raw food. And so that's kind of what inspired, I think, that first time was, yeah, Sedona. And we had this table that, it was, of course, a lot bigger than this. I'm just using like hand gestures. But this table was upside down. The legs were down. It was just like a pop-up, quick kind of like card table in a way. And the frame of the table, right, kind of held the trays of the microgreens in. So we stacked all of our stuff in the truck and then just put that table down on top and then put the trays of microgreens on that table. And it kind of held them sturdy in the back of the truck. And then when we got to the campground in Sedona, I remember pulling them all out and putting them on top of the truck, like on the canopy, on the smart cap. And they were just like basking in the sun. And, it was kind of windy and they were like, putting up with the wind. And I remember we had our one friend, Ben, there, Ben Benulis, or however you say his last name.
He's
And we
part of
had
the summit,
yeah,
actually, which
yeah,
is
he's
cool.
part of the summit. Good thing you mentioned that. Which the summit's going on right now, started yesterday, right? So here we are, second day for the summit, completely free. You can join in, watch the interviews. There's 2 interviews a day. What are they? They're 48 hours. I think you can watch them. And then, of course, if you do want to purchase all the interviews, I think you can purchase them for like $49 or something rather. But he was there, and I remember him just like, we're like, hey, help yourself to any of these microgreens. And he was just chowing down on those garlic chive microgreens, just cutting massive handfuls and just eating them. And I was like, bro, I think you're a little mineral deficient, because like, look at you devour those microgreens, man. Like he was loving on them.
Yeah.
So that's what started bringing microgreens. And of course, we always bring grapes. These are grapes, just for a little side note, these grapes are amazing. I don't know if you guys hear the crunch.
Oh man, yeah, that was a good crunch.
They're so good.
Watermelon Lime's asking, when is Dr. Greger on the summit? So I don't know exactly when. He has not been on yet because it just started yesterday. If anybody wants the link for the summit, send Nate a DM or me a DM, a direct message, and we will send you the link to sign up for the summit. It's completely free. You get to watch the interviews for 48 hours after they are released. So yesterday was my interview and Chef AJ's interview. And today is Chris Kendall and Gabriel Cousins. So if you want, again, send us a direct message and we can get you a link for that. But yeah, Dr. Greger's on, but he's not on yet. We're not, I have the list of everything, but
I don't
I'm not
see,
sure.
whoops, I've got the site up right now, and I'm not seeing Dr. Bernard's on May 11th. I don't see Dr. Greger. I'm like really scanning back and forth. I don't even see him on the board. Goldhammer's on the 9th. Weird.
Interesting. Well, he is part of it, so we'll
Yep.
get more details on when that is.
Yeah, he's
so.
part of it. Maybe they just don't have his air date posted. It looks like everybody else's air date's posted on here. Yeah, that's really strange. I'm going back and forth, back and forth. No, I don't see him on there. Weird.
Interesting. Well, yeah, but he still has his interview. So if anybody wants to get the link for the summit, please send either of us a direct message, and also go grab the bundle. The bundle is less than a week left of it, and this bundle only happens once a year. It's all raw. It's all brand new, and it's all yours for $50. It's worth over $840. You're getting all of the brand new content from all the creators who contributed to this, including our brand new Traveling as a Raw Vegan ebook, Tales from the Tailgate, and Make It Raw Volume 3 that I wrote with Chef AJ. So please go get the bundle, link in Nate's bio or my bio, either or. But yeah, microgreens while camping. So that's the story basically of how we started bringing microgreens camping. So would you have any tips for somebody who might want to maybe start taking microgreens on their camping trips?
Yeah. A tip would be, a couple tips maybe. I mean, of course, the reason that we brought ours, like I was saying in that story, was I didn't want to cut and harvest them all and put them all in a Tupperware and bring them with us that way. It is a little cumbersome, like trying to bring trays of microgreens with you. But say if you're, crazy like we are, then you just bring them. You just figure out a way to like put them. We've put them in our back seat, making like some level surface so they don't tip over, right? And of course, so a tip would be like, don't water them, or say if you're leaving like at noon, you could water them early in the morning, because typically you want to water your microgreens twice a day, in the morning and then the evening. So make sure if you are taking off like midday, you water them early. That way they've absorbed that water, because you don't want water like splashing around in the tray. And try to keep them as level as you can, just so you don't have soil falling out of the tray and onto your seat or your gear or wherever you're putting them. I mean, they'd probably be fine in the trunk of a car even, depending on how long you're driving. So that would be another one tip. And another tip would be to take them out. Say you have a long drive. Maybe you're driving like a 12-hour day to go wherever you're going. And that's why you're bringing your microgreens, because they have 2 days left before harvest. So you could take them with you on those long trips. Just when you stop to fuel up, maybe pull them out, just check on them, let it get a little fresh air while you're, putting gas in your vehicle. Or maybe you're stopping for lunch, pull them out, put them on the table with you for lunch. And how cool is that to have like fresh living food, right next to you? And that might be a really cool conversation starter with people. Of course, if you don't like talking to people, then, that might be a trick, right? You're like, don't talk to me. I've just got my microgreens on here. But Yeah, so that would be another tip, make sure like long trips, I feel like they would be fine, for 6 hours or something, not seeing any light, if they're in the trunk kind of thing. Um, what would be another one? I think those would probably be the main ones, really, when I think about it, because you can compost the soil. Say if you get where you're going, and you use most of the micro, maybe use half the tray. Maybe you've only got like a small tray that you're actually growing in. I mean, you could essentially harvest those, right? But of course, they're going to be fresher if you bring them alive. And bringing a tray like a small tray will be a lot easier than bringing like a 10 by 20 or like a 10 by 10. 10 by 10 is a pretty nice size though to travel with. But yeah, I think those would probably be my tips, for traveling with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say you don't have them, maybe they're in germination, or you just started the tray and you just all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to leave tomorrow, but I just started a tray of microgreens yesterday and they're in germination. That's fine too. You could just bring them in the germination state. You've got your tray, your dark tray stacked on top, put those in the trunk. They don't need light, right? And if you do your germination properly, like, there's certain ways to germinate. You wouldn't even need to water them, right? So that'd be kind of cool. Depending on where you're going, of course, it might be kind of cool to, like if you're in really dry climate, like where we are, I mean, the way that we do our microgreens, we don't even have to water them through the germination. And sometimes they're in germination for 3 to 4 days and they're fine, right? So that's kind of cool. Maybe you've got, a trip that you're taking like that where you wouldn't even need to really mess them. This is all car travel though. Like air travel, of course, would be a little different. If I was air traveling and I'm taking off for like 2 weeks or something, I haven't done this yet, but I've thought about it like, oh, this would be cool. Like I didn't do that for in Oregon. And I'm kind of bummed that I didn't bring trays. And of course, I could get trays and I could be growing some microgreens up here, but you could just pack that kind of stuff in your bag. Bring the trays, bring a little bit of soil, bring some seed. And then when you get to where you're going, you could start the microgreens then. Of course, sprouts are so easy. You just need a jar, right? Essentially, that's the cleanest, nicest way. It's just a jar and a mesh lid and just some seeds. So you could sprout, wherever you are in your car, or if you're on a plane, same kind of thing. You can't bring glass on a plane unless it's on your check-on bag. But those would be the way. That would be the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, another way to go would be to check out your stores, your local stores where you're going. Maybe they have fresh microgreens there. And of course, that's supporting the microgreen growers that are getting from the store. So that's not a bad thing either.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Love your tips, babe.
Mm.
Karen in the chat says Dr. Greger is coming on a later time. Karen and Rick said that he couldn't make it for this time, but there'll be a repeat session and he'll be on that. So yeah, sign up anyways.
Thank you.
Anyways.
Thank you for that update.
Karen. Watermelon Lime says, too bad Nate can't do a grow along this time. I love those.
Oh, I know.
So, yeah, maybe next bundle.
Right, maybe next bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been just crazy up here.
Mm-hmm.
Just to update, maybe some people are tuning in, don't know what's going on. They don't tune into your stories because nobody knows what's going on in my life if they're watching my stories necessarily. But, I'm up here in Oregon. I had both my parents pass away and we're going through all the stuff, getting the house ready to be put on the market. And, today we're going through boxes of, it's just amazing, like what my parents kept, more my mom than my dad, like letters from my grandma, my dad's mom, who, when they would write each other back when my grandpa was in the military, right? Like letters from like, the 40s and 50s, pictures from the, all over from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's kind of hard to just throw everything away. We have been going through all this kind of thing. So that's really taking a long time. This is the longest part, I feel like, of this, situation that we're in, is going through all of this old stuff. Like I've got a picture here. This is my dad and his first wife.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like all these old pictures. I think Amanda took like the pictures of, my mom and dad's wedding and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it takes a long time going through all that stuff, and you kind of go down a little memory lane. Part of me is just like, why? I mean, it's interesting some of the stuff that she did to keep like envelopes to birthday cards, of course, maybe to like thank the individual, right? But there's a lot of stuff we're going through.
Wow. Yeah, I know you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. So, but maybe next bundle we'll do a grow along because we're moving into our new place in June. So yes, and there are other bundles coming up, but no bundle is like this one. So if you want to get this bundle, this is the only chance that you can get it because other bundles will not be the same as this one. So
Right.
yeah. Natalie says you two are so darn awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see
Love
if
you.
we've got any other questions here. If anyone has any questions, feel free. Watermelon Lime says started new broccoli sprouts today. That's awesome.
Nice. Very
Yes.
good.
How would one do it on a hiking trip being organized by an adventure tourism company? Good question.
Okay. So being organized by an adventure touring company. So this individual, I imagine, is talking about like going to take a trip. They're going to go on a tour, but they want to bring their microgreens or their sprouts with them on this tour. Now, of course, what kind of
They also say later it says the best they can manage are vegan meals.
Oh.
So like what would you do? Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, you know, if you want to stay raw, the best thing to do is bring your own food, right? I mean, it's really, really awesome that some of these companies do accommodate people who have the dietary preference of, you know, wanting to have plant-based options. You know, they understand vegan, so there's no animal products in any of these options. That's amazing in so many ways, so amazing. But if you want to stay raw, then you got to bring your own food. That's really the best way. And it's kind of a pain in a way because you're thinking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a couple snacks, maybe a little dessert, right? Like some cacao or something in the evening, or, you know, what else could you bring? You know, fresh fruit. But of course, all this stuff is kind of heavy. So that's really a tricky one going on, like, depending on how long the tour was. If it was just a couple hours and, you know, whatever, like, you don't necessarily need to bring much, right? Like maybe like some date balls, or, you know, maybe you bring like some, you know, just some dates, or like, you know, some oranges, apples, these kinds of things that'll be kind of tough in your backpack. But the wraps that we've made, that Lissa had come up with, are really amazing to bring. They last a while, especially if you pack them right. So what we do is we wrap them in the deli paper. It's like a parchment style paper. I feel like it's different than parchment paper. Like, I feel like it breathes a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you make the wrap, all of this, of course, everything that, you know, we're talking about is having the mindset of like thinking about your trip and what you're going to eat and what you need to bring and what you want to achieve with this trip being raw, let's say. Because it's a lot easier if you're not raw. You're just like, oh, cool, they're going to cook me some vegan meals. But if you are raw and you want to stay raw, you got to plan ahead. So that's, you know, making the wraps, really, to make it easier on yourself. You'd be doing this prep work essentially days before your trip, right? Make those wraps, wrap them up. And those, man, we've taken them on the Colorado River rafting. We've taken them in our backpacks, rappelling down canyons and canyoneering trips. We've taken them everywhere that we can and that we have gone. And of course, we want to take them so many other places. But those are really amazing because they're really filling and they're really fun and easy to bring. And then you could just bring like a dressing bottle, like a little squeezable 4-ounce dressing bottle that can go in your check-on bag if you're going on a flight or something. And then you have a little dressing to squeeze onto your wrap. Those are really great. And of course, if you have sprouts and microgreens, you could stuff those in the wrap. But what I was going to say about packing them is you wrap them in the paper, and then you want to put them in like a Tupperware without the lid. And then you want to put the open side of the Tupperware. Let's say you've got your backpack. This is what we've done. The Tupperware is open on this side. This side is the bottom side of the Tupperware. And then back here is your ice or your water bladder. Maybe you put some ice cubes in your water bladder. What we like to do is we like to fill our water bladders up with ice cubes and then fill it up with water. Then it's nice and cold. And then you slide your Tupperware down in, and it's just kind of resting against that ice cold water bladder. And then, you know, if you're on like a really long trip, let's say you're like on the river, you're all day long or something, and it's just hot, then you'd want to like be mindful, you know, of course, all of this stuff is going to be in a dry bag. or maybe like freezable ice packs would work too. But you could always just rotate the actual wrap in the Tupperware so both sides get cold, right? So one side's not like, warm because the sun's beating on the bag and the other side's ice cold. So you might want to rotate. Of course, it just depends on the situation, how long you're going for, where you're going, these kinds of things, because that's going to really dictate. Like for me personally, I'm thinking like, it really depend on the trip, what I'm going to be bringing, what's going to last really a good time, or, if I'm only going for an afternoon, it's going to be different than if I'm going for like 3 days, right? So, yeah, maybe, whoever asked that could be, if they want more specifics, they can get a little bit more specific and we can kind of, maybe brainstorm some other ideas.
Yeah, because every trip is so different. It really depends on so many factors, but also cold soaks. We have lots of recipes for the cold soaks, which are really lightweight, freeze-dried meals.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, all of those recipes are in the Tales from the Tailgate ebook, which is in the bundle, link in either of our bios. Get that so you can make your own cold soaks and take them with you.
The cold soaks are so amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was like, oh yeah, the cold soaks. So that's something, that we've done like the last, I don't know, couple years. But essentially you could take like a watertight container. A container that works really good is like an empty, like peanut butter container. Maybe like I don't know, like any kind of watertight container that could be plastic, because it's not very heavy. Glass, of course, would be great if you're not worried about weight. If you're not packing this in your backpack or something, glass would be the best. But you'd basically, follow that recipe from the Tales from the Tailgate book, which you can get in the bundle, like Lissa says, grab the bundle. And how many cold soak recipes do we have in there? I can't remember.
There's at least 5.
Okay.
I think there's more. I think there's more, like 7 or 8, but I just want to say like a minimum of 5. But you don't need a freeze dryer to make them, because you can buy the freeze dried ingredients separately.
Yeah.
So but if you have a freeze dryer, you can make all your own freeze dried ingredients.
If you've got the freeze dryer, right? Exactly like Lissa's saying. So what we did before we had our freeze dryers, we would buy some certain ingredients, dehydrated and freeze dried. Of course, we have a dehydrator, but we're just like, thinking, oh, it'd just be easier. Yeah, there we go. We bought this box, and it comes with bell peppers and broccoli and peas and carrots and, all kinds of ingredients that are already pre-cut and dehydrated. And then you can follow the recipe, make your cold soak, essentially the meal, pack it in your Ziploc bag, or if you have the glass jar, you can just put it in the glass jar. And then when you want the meal, you just add water to it and let it soak for hours. Like say in the morning time, you're getting ready. Let's say you're getting ready to get on the river, going for a rafting trip on the Colorado River. Let's say you're going to pour that water in the jar that day, that morning, as you're like having your breakfast, your grapes or your melon or whatever you may be bringing. Because a raft, of course, you can bring stuff that's a little heavier, right? And then by the time lunch comes around, it's been soaking for 4 hours. It's nice and soft. And of course, if you're on the river, it's nice and sunny. Summertime, it's going to be kind of warm. You can also heat up some water and put some warm water on it. That's going to help absorb the vegetables will absorb the water a little quicker if it's warm than if it's a cold. But it's really nice to do the cold soaks. Man, really, really a great option for traveling. And we came up with those for my backpacking trip that I took with my son, Jonah, because I was like, shoot, I want to stay as raw as I can on this trip. What could I bring? And of course, there's like, you can make chia puddings, you can do, because, chia and water isn't that bad, right? Like, it's you're getting more fiber, you're getting some omega-3 fats, right? So it's good. Maybe put a little seasoning in there. I'm not sure if we have any chia pudding. Did we put the chia pudding?
No, we didn't.
Nope.
We have the oat. We have the sprouted oat cold soak in there.
Yeah, the sprouted oats are amazing, especially if you're adding like some cinnamon, maybe some like a little dehydrated miso to give just a little bit of salt in there.
Freeze-dried fruit added.
Freeze-dried, and then the freeze-dried fruit, and then you soak that before you go to bed. And then when you wake up, you've got your oatmeal ready to go. And that's really great. Everybody's, they're firing up stoves and cooking whatever they're cooking, all the standard breakfast stuff that people normally cook. And you have your breakfast, you don't even have to cook. You can spend time next to the river. Let's say you're on the river, next to the river, and enjoy the morning rather than have to deal with grease and oil and all the stuff that goes along with
Right.
cooking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, cold soaks for the win, and they've saved us before. Actually, one of the cold soak recipes,
true.
um, we talk about a
Yeah.
little story that happened, and I'll share it here. But each recipe in the Tales from the Tailgate ebook, there's over 100 recipes in there. It's all stuff that you and I have had over the last 5 to 6 years together. All of them have like a little story with them too. So if you guys want to hear more about our adventures and some, cute little tidbits about us, get the bundle so you can get the Tales from the Tailgate ebook so you can learn a little bit more about, the stuff that we've been doing or what have you. But this story goes along with one of the cold soaks. We went camping with our friends, and actually I'm going live with her in an hour and a half from now, Angelica. We went with Angelica and Paul, and we were camping on a beach, and it was so windy. It was just like the sand was just flying everywhere, and it was like I think that night we wanted to make tacos,
Yeah.
and it
And
was like
it was at the lake. It was at Lake Powell.
yeah. And we were like, this is not
Right.
happening.
No.
This is not happening tonight. So we always take our cold soaks with us just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. Or even if you run out of food and maybe you're stranded somewhere and you have like an extra day where you can't get food or whatever. So we always have an extra couple bags of cold soak, just in our travel bin, just in case we ever need them. And we needed them this day. And all we did was add water, and we had our meals, pretty quick, because it was so windy. We didn't want to make something fresh because then you get sand in it, and it was just not cool. But that was something that really saved us. So emergency food prep for raw vegans, the cold soaks are next level. So definitely, if that's something that you are interested in as well, the Tales from the Tailgate ebook has a lot of those recipes in it too.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that really solidified how important it is for anybody, really, not just us or raw vegans, but anybody to be bringing extra food with you, something like a cold soak that you could just, you could add warm water to it, or you could just let it soak. And man, because we wouldn't have had any food that we would have been eating fruit, or like, maybe trying to cut up some cucumber or something and eating it in the truck. I don't think we had dates and celery or anything like that, but I mean, we had everything to make like a really nice meal. But yeah, the wind, the sand, not a good mixture. You don't want to be eating sand. There's nothing that's worse, I feel like, than having sand in your food.
Ooh.
And yeah, like you touched upon the prep, um, that's so important. Doesn't matter like what kind of diet you follow or how your eating preferences go. Being able to prep up and store food for an emergency is really like an empowering feeling, knowing like, oh, we've got several months or half a year's worth of food that's bagged up properly with the oxygen absorbers and the mylar bags, ready to go if we need to have food storage. It's a nice thing. Of course there's canned goods and stuff people normally will stock on their shelves, but it's really nice as, say someone who's a raw vegan, like, we're, raw vegans. It's really nice to be able to have those meals. We know what's in them. There's not a lot of salt. A lot of these canned foods, of course, are loaded with salt, sugars and syrups and different things. So what's in it. And another really cool thing about the book, Tales from the Tailgate, which is a really, really amazing book. I'm super proud of that book. We put a lot into that, and Alyssa did such a great job. Like, we were kind of like brainstorming, like, oh, what was this particular meal about? Like, where were we? Oh, yeah, that's right. We were bringing the memories back of the stories that we had for each meal. And so there's the story in there of, the salads that we made on, I think it might have been Harris Beach.
Yeah.
Was it? It wasn't in California. It was in Oregon. Was it Oregon?
I think it was in Oregon. Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's cool. Let's just eat them out on the tailgate. And the wind blew sand from like the parking lot, and it's just minuscule amounts in our salad. It ruined our salads.
Mm-hmm.
We made these beautiful, delicious salads, good dressing. We had to throw them away. It was so horrible because you're just chewing on little fine granules. You know how it is, like if you don't maybe rinse your lettuce thoroughly enough, you've got that little bit of sand or dirt in your lettuce. Ah, it's the worst.
Yeah, yeah, and that story's in the book too. So yeah, grab the bundle from the link in either of our bios to go grab that. Karen in the chat is sending you love and light, Nate. Blessings of
Mm,
strength, comfort, and courage to you and your siblings.
thank you.
Wow, love the family history. Wish you guys all the best through the bereavement process. Maybe keep your parents' place for rental. Like yeah, the situation is not a situation where that can happen.
Yeah.
Finally bought the bundle. So happy you missed out last year. Yeah, you don't want to miss this one
Yeah.
because there's some really fun stuff in this bundle. Is your gnocchi made from sprouted beans or lentils? Can't eat those. It is not. Nope. The gnocchi, the top three main ingredients is coconut. It's like the coconut flour, which is just the coconut fiber, really. Sweet potato and spaghetti squash. Those are the main ingredients. There's other things in there too, but yeah, no sprouted beans or lentils in those ones. You two, Raw Vegan 2021 says, you two are a lovely couple. Thank you for all you do. Lisa, are you planning on highlighting your amazing pierogi, meatballs, and gnocchi in any of your lives? I've just been sharing reels of them. I am trying to make like what I eat in a days, but there's no recipe. Like the recipes are in the bundle. So if you want the recipe, you got to get the bundle to get the recipe. But I will be featuring them in some what I eat in a day videos. Hopefully, if I'm able to edit them. Yeah. But we are doing a live on May 11th on Saturday. We're going to be making the biryani recipe from Make It Raw 3 live together. So you can join for that one. And then on Sunday, May 12th, the last day of the bundle, we're doing the bloomed fiesta rice live on Chef AJ's YouTube channel. So those two recipes we'll be sharing live. Watermelon Lime says, wraps around the world. Yes, we're always trying to figure out like, where can we go and eat awesome food in awesome places. Frugivore Runner is saying, yeah, I'm considering doing a 10-day trip. Good thinking on using those ice gel packs. Yeah, a 10-day trip. Yeah. Are you worried about
What kind of a trip?
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Because that's what I did. It was a 10-day backpacking trip on the Colorado Trail. And yeah, that was a challenge to stay like raw. I wasn't able to stay completely raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
but
was
you
a
were
challenge.
mostly, yeah, you had most of your stuff. Like
I was super high raw. Yeah, but I had bars and stuff that I brought that weren't raw. That was essentially it. Then I did like some instant potatoes, right? So, but everything else was essentially raw. Like we had the cold soaks every day, had those instant potatoes, pretty much like a few times a week. And I had the cold soak oats. If we did like come through a town or whatever, like I would grab a piece of fruit or something. But yeah, it's like depending on the trip though, 10-day trip, like if it's a different kind of trip, like you could make the wraps themselves. And if you have access to a grocery store, you could just go get the ingredients that you need to wrap the wrap fresh. That's something that you could do. Like I traveled into Mexico with a dozen wrappers unwrapped and made bought the ingredients in Mexico that I needed to roll them with, just rolled them up, put them in my suitcase. So yeah, depending on your trip, like what you're doing, definitely doable. It's doable no matter where you go to stay super, super high raw or even all raw. If you are absolutely bound and determined to stay raw, you can make it happen. It just can be like a challenge depending on the kind of trip. Like backpacking, where everything in your whole world that you need is on your back, can be pretty tricky because food and water weigh so much. That's where the cold soaks, of course, are key.
Yeah, totally. What is the advantage of freeze drying? I'll answer that one. So freeze drying, I did do a live talking all about this in the past, but I'll quickly go over some points. But freeze drying retains up to 97% of the nutrition, which is the highest retention of any food prep method. It outshines dehydration and definitely cooking, but 97% of the nutrition is retained. And if you store it properly under vacuum with the oxygen absorber and everything is like really good and it's fully dry, it can last up to 25 years and it still retains all that nutrition. So it's one of the best, absolute best forms of food prep. But the only, one of the bigger differences between freeze drying and dehydration is the texture that you get after. Because I've had people ask like, well, if I buy a freeze dryer, do I need a dehydrator? And it's like, well, they both do completely different things and they're both completely different because you can't make wraps in a freeze dryer. They'll just be like, space food. They'll just crunch right. Like you can't, they're not pliable at all or anything like that. So it depends on what texture you're looking for, that kind of thing. But freeze drying, another bonus to freeze drying is that it's super lightweight. It's like, it almost weighs nothing because it's just, it's airy. It's like packing peanuts, basically. That's kind of like the weight of them. It's really, really, really light. So they're really amazing to take camping and hiking and all that kind of stuff. So would you have anything to add about the benefits of fruit?
No. Yeah, as far as like food preservation goes, yeah, I mean, both of them have their place, like you touched upon, and it's just really cool that freeze drying, it looks pretty much the same as when you cut it. Like say you cut strawberries, you slice up strawberries, they're going to look pretty similar to when you cut it. Of course, not exact because all the water's been removed, but when you take it out of the the freeze dryer and it's done under a vacuum, that's why you're retaining so much nutrition, is because it's done under a vacuum, so there's no oxygen blowing over the food like in a dehydrator. And then it reconstitutes so much quicker and is really close to the original state, as opposed to, say, if you dehydrate a strawberry, especially if you do it without like soaking it in a brine of some sort. A lot of times the people will use like oils and sugars to like coat the strawberry before they dehydrate it, and they won't rehydrate the same as like a freeze dry. But yeah, I mean, freeze drying is absolutely amazing, and there's a lot of companies out there that sell a lot of freeze dried food. So even if you don't have the means to get a freeze dryer, you could support these companies that are making freeze dried food: peaches, apples, bananas, like really almost anything you could think of. Like I just saw in my dad's closet, he had a bunch of food in there, freeze dried big huge cans of black bean burger mix. And I was like, whoa, black bean burger. And Chet's like, yeah, those are my brother. He's like, yeah, those are really good. I'm like, dang, that's really cool. So I need to take a picture of that because I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Making like, maybe sprouting some lentils and some beans, maybe even having like whatever, whatever else other ingredients they have in there, freeze drying that ingredients. And then it's just, because you can shake it, it's just like a crumbled powder in a sense, like whatever, all the ingredients. Mix it with water, stir it up, form your burger patties, and then you could just warm them up on a pan. Of course, it's not going to be raw, but it's going to be a lot more healthy and delicious than buying some, mix or a pre-made patty at the store. And it's good for like you said, 25 years is what all the research shows. Like some of these foods, if they're stored properly, 25 years, hopefully, you're eating it before then. I mean, but that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is totally. And if anybody wants to know any companies that we suggest, get the bundle, open the Tales from the Tailgate ebook. Inside, there is an entire chapter going through the history of freeze drying, how to freeze dry, what freeze dryers to look for, and dehydration, the pros and cons, what dehydrators we suggest, how to dehydrate, different hours for certain foods and stuff. And there's also a page in there with a list of all the companies that we suggest if you want to buy already freeze-dried ingredients to make your cold soaks. Like the Tales from the Tailgate ebook is so jam-packed with information and links and tips and ideas for all of this kind of stuff. So please go grab it. The link is in either of our bios. Get the bundle so you can get access to that book. But yeah, all of the links are in there. Mm-hmm. Natural Minta is saying, thanks for all the love, you two. You are both amazing. Oat groats, especially to make your sprouted oats recipe. What's the sprouting process? So we buy already sprouted oats from First Degree.
One
and
Degree.
1 degree. 1 degree, yes. And the link to that is also in the Tales from the Tailgate ebook. So you can just go to the cold soak recipe and the oats are linked in there. So you can just go grab those. Whole Foods sells them too. They're already sprouted, so you don't have to worry about sprouting them yourself unless you want to.
It's cool
Yeah.
too because they've got a couple different flavors. They've got the regular oat. They've got one that's like I want to say like a coconut and
Mhm.
maybe some hemp, a coconut hemp. I feel like there's an apple cinnamon. There's even like a cacao one too.
Mhm.
Maybe the cacao one isn't oatmeal. Maybe it's granola, but it's sprouted granola. But yeah, they have some really, really great products that, they're all sprouted. So that's awesome.
Hmm. Watermelon Lime is asking, are you going to celebrate your oath ceremony together? Ooh. So we talked a little bit about it and it's not going to
Well,
work out, but
maybe it could be live. You're like, here I am.
yeah, maybe it
I
could.
don't know.
We'll see what Angelica can do for us.
There
So
we go.
my friend Angelica, who I'm going live with in about an hour, is going to be with me. So it just didn't make too much sense because the date that I have makes the plane ticket very expensive. So yeah, it's all good. We'll get pictures, and Nate was with me for like the hardest part of it, so it's all good. Maybe a patch of John Muir Trail on the PCT.
Oh,
That's what Frugivore
that's
Runner's thinking. Yes.
that's the 10-day trek. Oh, I'm jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get your permit to go? Because I know that's like a pretty hard one to
Yeah.
get. I know that people will cancel and you can pick up like a tag last minute, but that's amazing. Oh, that's definitely on my bucket list of a trail to do. I would love to do the whole trail. I think it's like around 350 miles. So a 10-day stretch, I mean, even then, depending on how many miles you do, it's going to be absolutely breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one definitely to tap in, bring those cold soaks. And if you can ship yourself some, I haven't done much research on that trail, but I know that you can drop ship some boxes to so where you could resupply on the trail, maybe like hitchhike in to the little town, to the post office, so you could pick up your box. That's what we did on the Colorado Trail. And of course, that's what a lot of thru hikers do on the big trails, the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, these sorts of trails. But yeah, definitely is super possible to at least say stay extremely high raw on trails, especially being able to drop ship, right? Because you could make your date balls, you could make dehydrated fruit and that sort of thing, like mangoes, and make fruit leathers and send those. So you've got some of those to bring with you. Yeah, that's going to be amazing. Super excited for you. Jealous for sure.
Yeah, they're asking, is there an all-in-one freeze dryer dehydrator that you can buy? There
Mm.
is not. They're both completely separate machines, and they both do completely separate things. So the freeze
Yeah,
dryer is a lot more
yeah.
expensive,
The tricky
but
thing is like a good dehydrator is anywhere from $100 to maybe $400, depending. Maybe you get a used one. I got mine for $100. It was used, but it was brand new.
mhm.
And a freeze dryer is going to be anywhere from $2,000 to maybe even $5,000, depending on what you're going with, right? So it's definitely a whole different investment.
Mhm.
But a good freeze dryer, treated well, stored properly, like cared for, that sort of thing, like should last a lifetime. And
Mhm.
of course, you can get parts and stuff for them. These companies, they've been around for a really long time, so it's a really basic machine. But yeah, it's a huge investment. So you could buy like a can of freeze dried food, like say apples, a big old can for like maybe $16 to $25, right? Might be more cost effective to do something like that if you're making meals. The thing is, when you open up your freeze dried food, like say one of those big cans, you need to like use that and make the meals with it right away, because it'll start to reabsorb some of the oxygen that's just in the air, and it can ruin the freeze dried food. We've had that happen by not sealing it properly with the oxygen absorber in the jar and having a good nice seal on the actual jar. It started to kind of let a little bit air in, and then it's kind of like, it's like a soft kind of chewy. It's not good. And then even we've had some things go rancid where you can taste it. You're like, ooh, this is stale. This is gross.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
whole
so
different thing.
super important. Yeah, once you open those tins, you got to use it up. And then whatever meal you make out of the ingredients, you have to seal that meal with the oxygen absorber, make sure that all the ingredients together, aren't attracting that moisture in the air. But yeah. You took wraps in your carry-on luggage or checked bag to Mexico, and they
Yeah.
arrived intact and still tasty. Wow, those are super wraps.
Yeah. So I made we made the two no fish wraps, which is cool because it's like, cheers to no fish, cheers to no fish, right? But it tastes like tuna fish. The recipe is amazing. It's in the hand salads ebook. One of my top favorite. It probably like, I mean, it'd be hard. It's probably like, at least number one, if not number two, of my favorite all-time wraps out of like all 35 wraps that are in the wrap book, the hand salads book. Anyways, yeah, I had those wrapped up with my tartar sauce, and I brought those with me on the plane. I ate one on the plane, and I'd planned to bring them into Mexico to share with my friends there. They were already pre-made, but going across customs, they wouldn't allow me to bring them into Mexico because they were already pre-made. Fresh vegetables, couldn't do it. But they did let me bring in the actual wrappers. So I had like the wrappers being like the tortilla, let's say, right? For those maybe who are tuning in, it's like, what's a wrapper? It's essentially like a fruit and vegetable based tortilla, but there's no flour, of course, right? So when I had those separated by parchment paper, I had them rolled up around a essentially kind of like a paper towel roll, but it was from wrapping paper, so it's kind of strong. I wrapped them around that, and I put them in a Ziploc bag, but I kept the Ziploc bag open, and I put them in my check-on suitcase. They would fit in my carry-on, and I'd be able to put them in my carry-on. I've flown with them on my carry-on as well, and they did let me bring those in. But the wraps themselves, yeah, they'll make it across the world. Especially if you have an ice pack. You can bring food with you on the plane. They can't tell you can't bring your own food on the plane. But it can be tricky bringing pre-made food ready to go through into other countries. Mexico wouldn't let me do it. They wouldn't even let me eat them right there. I'm like, can I just stand over there and eat them real quick? And they're like, no, you have to throw them away right here. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I can't eat it right now? Like, I'll literally walk over that way and I'll eat it. And they're like, no, you have to throw it away. I like almost like started to cry. I was so frustrated. So make sure you eat your wraps before you go through customs.
On the plane, yeah.
On the plane, like.
That's right? Just for Mexico though, because
I'm not sure what other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what other. I'm sure there's other countries too. They'll be like, no, they're not coming into our country. What do you have in there, right? Because it's pre-made. They don't know what's in there.
It depends on the agent too that you have. Like some of them are pretty lenient; they'll let you through.
Because it went through the X-ray. They could see that I'm not like smuggling drugs in my wraps, right? Like there's not like vials of whatever in there. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that there's a lot of. It's an interesting world. I can understand where they're coming from, and it's just better safe than sorry. So they wouldn't allow me to bring them in. But yeah, they're amazing. They're definitely hardy and. Literally, they could fly around the world, depending on if you had the right kind of flight where you could literally fly around the world. I bet you could fly around the entire world. Say if money was no object, you could probably do that in 4 days. I would think 4, maybe 5 days, and you could literally eat the one that you brought with you from day one when you land back home, because they're okay even on the 5th day. But I wouldn't eat them any day past the 5th day. The tuna fish wrap, I think I had the very first time I ever had the tuna fish wrap. I think it was 5 or 6 days old, and I was like, "This is amazing. This is amazing." But of course, it was in their fridge, so it was held at a proper temperature, consistent the whole time. But yeah, they're amazing. Wraps are amazing.
Wraps are amazing. Great talk, you guys. Thanks so much for the tips and the great bundle. You're so welcome. Love you, Lissa. You two are amazing. Such a cute and inspiring couple. Thank you. Thank you for all this information. It's overwhelming, and recommended suggestions help with making choices. That's great. Yeah, that's what the bundle's for. It's to help you make better choices. I didn't know 1 degree oats were raw. Yeah, they are sprouted oats. So yeah. Frugivore doesn't have his John Muir permit yet. The whole trail, he said, will take 3 weeks. But yeah, cool. Let's see what else. Do we have anything here? Any other questions before we depart? Might be a problem to even carry on wraps with fermented foods like miso for their pungent odor. Yeah, that's a good point too. I flew to the UK from Canada, and they allowed me to have my salad with my dressing and everything, and I'm on the plane and I'm eating it, and there's like garlic and ginger smells and everything, but I'm sure people would rather smell that than like stinky fish or something like that. But
And of course, if we're traveling with wraps, we really strive to steer clear from anything wet, like fermented foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, because that's just going to really make the wrap soggy quick. If we're going to eat it that day, we'll do it. Or I'd say at the very, very last, I don't know what the way to say that, the next day. But, like we don't put tomato or even really like cucumber, like strips of cucumber, because it's so wet, unless we're going to eat it like right then. But yeah, that's a good point. Definitely the pungent smell might throw people off. I know you can't travel with durian because that's pretty pungent too.
That's true. That's true. Watermelon Lime says, I once went to a music festival and brought all this expensive vegan food beforehand because you never know if they sell vegan food at the festival, and they made me throw it all away. Oh, it's so painful. Oh,
it's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's like
too, because I know, like, I thought, okay, if I were to travel again, let's say to Mexico, and I want to bring those wraps, maybe I need to get a note from my friend that's a doctor saying this is my special food. I'm diabetic or whatever, come up with a story. I know there's people who actually have certain issues who can, very possibly get, their food by. I just didn't have a story, because I probably could have said, like, look, this is like, I've got cancer, of course, little white lie, right? Just so I can bring my food in. But I didn't do that. I know it's a bummer.
It's a bummer that they do that, and it sucks, but it is what it is. But if you're flying domestically, or depending on certain like countries, like flying from Canada into the US, customs didn't care what I brought when I would come visit you.
That's cool.
So
cool.
And flying from Canada to the UK, I flew to Mexico with food. I flew to Costa Rica with food.
That's awesome.
And they didn't say anything. So it really depends on the country.
What kind of food?
Like fruit. I think, I would always take a salad. This was long before the wraps existed.
In Mexico, they made me throw my kiwis away. They wouldn't let any fresh fruit in. And if I would have been like a little more discreet, maybe I wouldn't even had to show them the wraps. I just was like kind of excited, like, yeah, these are my wraps. And they're like, oh, wait, what's this? Because they saw the kiwis. The kiwis is what threw them in the beginning. But yeah, like you said, there's certain countries not even a problem. But yeah, I think like if I had a good story, and I know that, other people do actually have these stories, they are battling like an illness of some sort. I mean, how could they say no? Like, this is my special food. I can't get this kind of food in your country. I'm going to be here for X amount of days. This is my here's my note. You have to allow me. You can't let me not. But then, of course, depending on the customs people, they might be like, you know what? Like the DMV, they're like, we got you. Right. Nothing you can do. You got to play by our rules. You never know.
Yeah, I know. It's like you might as well try, because at least you try, right? Instead of not even trying.
Yeah.
You're scared, like, well, it is what it is. But thank you so much for joining me for this live, my love. It was wonderful to have a chat with you. If you want to grab the bundle, everybody, go to Nate's bio or my bio and get the bundle. Get the Tales from the Tailgate ebook, get the Make It Raw Volume 3. You get everything in the bundle, worth over $840 for $50. But it ends on May 11th, and you won't be able to get this collection again ever. So please go get that, and we will see you soon. Thanks, babe. Thanks
love
to
you guys
for joining.
Bye, baby.
Love you guys.
I love you.
We'll be live in an hour at 2 p.m. with Angelica. So see you then. Bye.
Bye.